As I told you in the bandsaw lighting video, that I was, and actually before that, I had told you this too, that I was going to start working on the power supply to the bandsaw. And here is some conduit that I have secured for it. When I went to get the lighting stuff, I got some conduit. I've got one piece that's I bent that is going to be going up from the electrical panel out to the rack, and I'm not really sure if you're going to be able to see it, but on the right hand side there's a 1-inch galvanized conduit, and then you have the 1-inch black gas line. In between it there's a piece of 1/2-inch conduit laying up there, and that is the electrical panel. So what I'm going to be doing, and I'm not going to shoot a full video of this, and it's going to be part of the bandsaw video series. What I'm going to be doing is running a power supply over here for the bandsaw. Now what I have done is I've secured a 3-pole, this is a 3-phase motor, 3-pole knife type switch to wire up to the bandsaw temporarily until I can get a relay that will allow me to operate this on-off button. As the bandsaw comes down, it will automatically turn it off when it meets or when it achieves the end of the stroke. So I'm going to do that, but in the interim, I'm going to just wire up this 3-pole knife switch to the bandsaw so that I can run it. Now, there's going to be a couple of options here. One of the things that I was thinking about doing was kind of securing it under here and just sticking it under here for now. Or I could probably get some kind of a stand behind here with a piece of metal coming up that would secure it back here where I could turn it on and off. But one of the things that I am going to be doing is, it's going to be hard to see because that light is going to blind you, but up there, I am going to bring that 3-phase power out and tee it off and run part of the line over here to the grinder, because this is also 223-phase. Run it over here so that there's a power supply to it and a power supply to the bandsaw, all on the same circuit. And what it's going to be done is going to be run off a 30 amp breaker. So it's very unlikely that the two of these things will ever be running at the same time, but even if they were running at the same time, kind of as with the double-headed drill press, it will still work because the motor on the bandsaw is only 3/4 horse. I think it draws 2.6 amps. Now, this ball door grinder, I'm not sure. The nameplate is gone, so I can't tell you what it is. But I have kind of looked on online, and ball door grinders usually run around 5 horsepower. So I'm thinking probably somewhere in the range of 12 to 15 amps. So I've got more than enough power supply to run them both at the same time if that should ever happen. But again, the likelihood of that ever happening is very slim. Usually it's just me in the shop. Sometimes my grandson comes in here, sometimes other people come in here to work on things, but the likelihood that I'm going to be using the grinder and the bandsaw at the same time is very small. So I'm going to kind of probably use this as an intro to the wiring for the bandsaw and grinder. Again, we've got that 3-pole switch. I told you that I would be hooking up a relay. When I went to an electrical supply company to get this switch, and I asked them about relays, and they don't carry them. Now, I could probably find it online, a relay online, but kind of what I like to do is shop locally first. Try and get something locally, try and support some local businesses before that. So the guy at the electrical supply house kind of put me onto another place to try down in Buffalo, and I'm going to try them. If I don't have any luck with them, and if they can't tell me who in the Buffalo area supplies them, then I will go online and do it. But for the meantime, all it is going to be is that 3-pole switch on it. And again, the video, I am not going to shoot extensive videos on it. It's probably going to be short clips like I did with the pickup truck and removing the engine, just 20 or 30-second bursts of video explaining what I did and what I'm doing and where it's going. But I'll bring you back. I don't know that you'll be able to see it because that light might be blinding you out, but I've got the conduit run over there. Now the last piece that I put up was just a 10-foot piece, and I'll probably cut it back, but I'll just use the tubing cutter. Cut it back a little bit, maybe underneath that unistrut that's up on the left-hand side up there. And that's where a 4-inch box is going to go, and then I'm going to tee off of that, and one leg will go over to the wall for the bandsaw, the other leg will come this way, and I'll have another box up there with a cord that drops down to supply the power to the grinder. But anyways, there it is. Hopefully you can see that. I've got a 4-inch square box up there and a run going over to the wall behind the bandsaw, which will be the feed for the bandsaw. Out of that 4-inch box, I'm going to continue straight. When I say straight, I mean straight with the run that comes out of the electrical panel out and come over to, I'm not sure how I'm going to do it yet. It depends on how I can hang it or what my options are for hanging it. I'll either come out of that box, that 4-inch box, straight, parallel with the, or along the run out of the electrical box, and then bend the conduit over, put a box up there, and probably am dropping cables down for the grinder. But that's to be decided yet. I'll bring you back. This is going to be the stand for the switch, the knife switch for the bandsaw. I've got that upright. It's going to go into that rim. I'm going to weld that piece of channel iron into the rim. And then I've got 2 cross supports that I'm going to weld on to attach the box to. Okay. So there is the switch mounted on the stand. Just going to set it behind the lead-off table. Just a shot of the wiring for it. Power supply for the bandsaw. Electrical panel wired. I don't have the wire run from the panel over to this box by the bandsaw, but I got to do it. I'm having issues. I borrowed a fish from some guy, and it's a Klein, and it's so hard to get it out of the its holder. For some reason, it's bound up, so I've got to figure out what's going on with it. Little wire pulling rack. I had to get red, green, white, and black. They didn't have any blue. I would have preferred to have gotten red, blue, and black, and then green. But I'm going to have to use a white as a leg of the 223 face. Bring it back. Just a shot, got the wire pulled. The other end, the wire pulled in through the conduit. I've only pulled it over to that junction box. I still got to pull down to the bandsaw and over to a box for the grinder station. Wire pulled to the box behind the bandsaw. Okay, wirings are tied into the panel. I just piggybacked it off of another breaker right now because again, it's not drawing that much amps, and I'll when I'm downtown the next time down to Buffalo, I'll pick up another breaker for it, a 3-phase breaker. And here's the bandsaw. I even got it running the right way the first time too. Okay, so that's the wiring. Bandsaw is hooked up temporarily. Again, I have to find a relay that will allow me to use that old switch or a switch like it. So the switch will kill the 3-phase, all the legs of the 3-phase. So I have to find that relay. Just as a side note, I have to find a relay for the lathe too, but that's only single phase, 220. So I've got to kind of find them relays. Again, as I had mentioned in one of my other videos, I had gone to electrical supply house that I usually normally go to for switches and oddball stuff. Hang on and I'll bring you back. Anyways, got interrupted by the phone. I went to my normal electrical supply house that I go to for oddball stuff, like 220 stuff, not 220 the wiring or anything, but like plugs and stuff like that. And they did not carry relays. He told me of a place down in Buffalo that would probably carry them, so I'm going to go down, see them, see if they carry them, or if they don't, see if they can recommend somebody to get them. I kind of looked online, and I only looked for probably 15 minutes, and the information that I found, you know, it shows relays, but it doesn't tell what they do or how they operate. You know, can I use a 110 circuit to kill a 220 circuit with that type of relay? And that's the information it doesn't give. Most of them direct you towards eBay to purchase them on eBay, and if you go to the description, all it does is give a manufacturer and a model number of it, and then if you try and look it up on the internet, it keeps directing you back to eBay. So I've got to do some research on it. But anyways, here's the bandsaw. Still got to be painted and stuff like that, but it's up and running. I've got you up on the lift here. This is going to be kind of the finish to the video. During the video, I talked about running the power supply over to the grinder. Well, I didn't do it. I didn't do it because I wanted to get this bandsaw up and running and powered up, and I can run that power supply over there afterwards just by running it out and then turning the breaker off and tying it in at that junction box. One of the reasons I didn't do it is because I've got to come out here and run a box out here, kind of out in the middle of these two bays between the purlins. And out of that box is going to drop down that cord that you see wrapped around the one grinding wheel. What it is I've got to figure out a way of supporting it so that that cord is well supported, dangling in midair out here. So that's kind of the gist of why I didn't run it, that and wanting to get the bandsaw up and running and in service. So this is a good vantage point of taking a look at the box, to run over to the wall for the bandsaw power supply, the knife switch on the stand. That's some more of that cable that I have ran over to the knife switch so that I can move it around a little bit if I need to. The stand for the knife switch, that is, if I want to move that around. So also during the video I talked about getting the relays to it. Well, we've done a little more research, and when I say we, my grandson offered to kind of look into it after I mentioned it to him. And what I was looking for is 110 volt switching capabilities to disconnect the 220. 220 three-phase on this, 221 single phase on the lathe. We did not find that. He did find relays that have a lower voltage, so between like 24, 48 volts DC. So what we'd have to do is, and those relays can be bought on eBay or any place like that, fairly inexpensively. But what I would have to do is come up with a cabinet or a panel to put the relay in. I would have to come up with a transformer to power down to the 24 48 volts DC, and then run that power out to that switch, that on-off switch that when the bandsaw drops, it actually would turn the machine off. So we did make some headway in finding some things on it, but I'm not really concerned about getting it installed right away. It's something that I definitely want to do because I don't want to have to stand here and babysit the bandsaw and then turn it off every time the cut is done. It's very handy to have it come down and turn off automatically while you're doing something else. So that's it for the bandsaw. What I will do is I will bring you back and show you the first cut, the first official cut in with the tables and in the bandsaw in this location. I have used the bandsaw and cut a piece of stock that I needed cut that was too big for my other little bandsaw. When I first got it, I just wired a plug up to it, and when it was over on the other side of the shop before I moved it over to its final location, I just plugged it in over there and fired it up and made a cut. But I'll bring you back and show you the first official cut in the new location with the tables. So there it is.